You checked your bank account this morning. The deposit came in, just like it does every month. But something was off. The number on your screen was lower than you expected. Maybe lower than last month. Maybe lower than it was a year ago. And your first thought was, did something go wrong? Did the government cut my payment? Did I miss something? If that moment felt familiar to you, I want you to stay right here, because this video is going to explain exactly what is happening, why it happens, and what you actually need to do about it. No panic, no confusion, just a clear, honest explanation of how taxes work on your CPP and OAS, and why your deposit might not look the way you think it should. My name is not important. What matters is that by the end of this video, you will understand something that thousands of Canadian seniors never got properly explained to them. And once you understand it, a lot of the worry goes away. Let's start at the beginning. When you receive CPP, that's the Canada Pension Plan, and OAS, that's Old Age Security, most people assume those are simply their money, coming back to them. And in a sense, that's true. You earned CPP through decades of work and contributions. OAS is a benefit you qualify for by age and residency. These are real, government-backed payments, and you deserve every dollar. But here is the part that surprises many people. Both CPP and OAS are considered taxable income by the Canada Revenue Agency, the CRA. This is not a new rule. This is not a recent change. This has always been the case. The government counts these payments as income, the same way it counts a pension from an employer or money you earn from a part-time job. Now, that does not mean you automatically owe a large amount of tax. For many seniors, especially those with modest incomes, the actual tax owing ends up being small or even zero after certain credits are applied. But the structure of how tax gets collected, that is where the confusion usually starts. Let me explain how it works in plain terms. When a payment is made to you, whether it's CPP from Service Canada or OAS from Service Canada, the government has two choices. Either they send you the full amount and then collect tax from you at the end of the year when you file your return, or they take a portion of the tax off the top before the money ever reaches your bank account. That second method is called a tax withholding, or sometimes people call it a source deduction. It simply means that the agency paying you has already removed an estimated amount of tax before the deposit lands in your account. This is why your deposit can look lower than the official payment amount you see printed on government letters or listed on government websites. The official amount is the gross amount, meaning the full amount before any tax is removed. What hits your bank is the net amount, what's left after the withholding. For example, and I'll keep this simple, if your CPP payment is $500 a month and Service Canada is withholding $50 in estimated tax, your bank deposit shows $450. The government website still says your CPP is $500. Both numbers are correct. They are just measuring different things. This is one of the most common sources of confusion for Canadian seniors, and it causes real stress. People see a number on a government letter, they expect that exact number in their bank account. And when it doesn't match, they think something went wrong. Nothing went wrong. The withholding is working exactly as it's designed to. Now let's talk about why the amount withheld can change, because this is the part that explains why your deposit might be lower this month than it was several months ago, or lower than it was last year. The CRA and Service Canada estimate how much tax you will owe based on what they know about your income. But that estimate is not fixed forever. It gets adjusted. There are several reasons why the withholding amount on your CPP or OAS can increase or change. The first reason is a change in your income situation. If you started receiving a new payment, maybe a workplace pension began, or you started withdrawing from an RRSP or a RRIF, which stands for a Registered Retirement Income Fund. Your total income for the year went up. When total income goes up, your estimated tax goes up. And when estimated tax goes up, the withholding on your CPP or OAS may increase to keep pace. The second reason is a request from the CRA. If you filed your taxes and it turned out you owed money at the end of the year, meaning you had underpaid through the year, the CRA may ask Service Canada to increase the withholding on your payments going forward, so the same thing doesn't happen again. This is called an increased withholding request, and it's completely normal. The third reason is something you may have requested yourself and simply forgotten. You can ask Service Canada to withhold more tax from your payments. Some seniors do this on purpose, so they don't end up with a tax bill in April. If you made that request at some point in the past, or if a tax preparer made it on your behalf, that may be the reason your deposit looks smaller. The fourth reason is related to the OAS recovery tax, which I will explain in a moment, because that one deserves its own section. Let's talk about OAS specifically for a moment, because OAS has a unique feature that CPP does not have. It is called the OAS clawback, but the official government name is the Old Age Security Recovery Tax. Here is how it works. The government designed OAS as a benefit for all seniors, but they also built in a rule that says, if your income in a given year is above a certain threshold, you have to pay back a portion of your OAS. The income threshold changes slightly each year, but it generally sits in the range of approximately $90,000. If your total income is significantly above that level, a portion of your OAS gets clawed back. Now, this does not affect the majority of Canadian seniors. Most retirees have incomes well below that threshold and are not subject to any clawback at all. But if your income is near or above that level, the government will begin recovering some of your OAS through withholding on future payments. Here is the important thing to understand about the clawback and timing. The CRA assesses your income from your most recent tax return. There is a built-in delay, so if your income was high in one tax year, the clawback does not necessarily hit immediately. It typically shows up in your OAS payments starting the following July, after the CRA has assessed your return and calculated the recovery amount. This is why some seniors are surprised in the summer. Their OAS deposit drops in July, and they don't know why. The reason is almost always that the CRA processed their previous year's tax return, calculated a recovery amount, and Service Canada began deducting it. If this is happening to you, the key document to look for is a letter from Service Canada explaining the recovery amount and the new monthly deduction. If you did not receive that letter, or if you're not sure, you can log into your My Service Canada account online to review your payment details, or you can call Service Canada directly at 1-800-277-9914. Let's slow down and go through two real examples so this becomes very concrete. Meet Margaret. Margaret is 72 years old. She lives in Ontario. She receives CPP of $600 a month and OAS of $650 a month. Her total income, including a small workplace pension, is about $40,000 a year. Margaret is well below the OAS clawback threshold. Her CPP and OAS are both taxable, but with her basic personal amount and the age amount credit applied, she ends up owing a relatively small amount of tax annually. Service Canada withholds a modest amount each month, perhaps $30 to $50 total across her payments. Her net deposits look slightly lower than her gross amounts, but the difference is small, and at tax time she usually gets a small refund or owes very little. Now meet Robert. Robert is 75. He lives in British Columbia. He receives CPP and OAS, but he also has a defined benefit pension from his old employer that pays him about $60,000 a year. His total income is around $110,000. Robert is above the OAS clawback threshold. The CRA calculated that he needs to repay a portion of his OAS based on last year's income. Starting in July, Service Canada began withholding approximately $300 a month from his OAS payment. Robert noticed his OAS deposit dropped significantly in July, called his daughter in a panic, and assumed there was an error. There was no error. The recovery tax was working exactly as designed. The difference between Margaret's situation and Robert's situation is income level, and understanding which category you fall into is the first step toward understanding your deposits. So what should you actually do right now? Let me walk you through this clearly. The first thing to do is look at your payment breakdown. When Service Canada sends you a payment, it should come with a statement of payment, either mailed to you or available through your My Service Canada account online. This statement shows your gross amount, any deductions, and your net deposit. If you have that document in front of you, compare the gross number to what landed in your account. The difference is the tax withheld. The second thing is to check your My Service Canada account. If you don't have one set up, I strongly encourage you to ask a trusted family member or community organization to help you create one. Inside that account, you can see your payment history, your withholding amounts, and any notes about changes to your payments. It is a very useful tool, and it is free. The third thing, if you believe something is genuinely wrong, is to contact Service Canada by phone. The number is 1-800-277-9914. When you call, have your social insurance number ready. Ask them to explain your current gross payment amount, any withholding being applied, and whether there is an OAS recovery tax in effect on your account. They can walk you through your specific situation. The fourth thing is to look at your Notice of Assessment from the CRA. This is the document the CRA sends you after processing your tax return each spring. It shows your total income for the year, called line 23,600. If that number is significantly above the OAS clawback threshold, you now know why your OAS may have been reduced. There are a few very common mistakes I want to walk you through, because these are things I hear about regularly. The first mistake is comparing your deposit to someone else's. Your neighbor might receive the same amount of CPP as you on paper, but their deposit might be different because their withholding is different. Their income situation is not your income situation. Never assume something is wrong just because someone else's deposit looks different from yours. The second mistake is assuming the gross amount on a government letter is what you'll receive in your bank. That gross amount is the official payment amount before any deductions. What you receive is the net amount. Always look at net. The third mistake is forgetting about changes you made yourself. Many seniors, especially after a year where they owed tax in April, call their tax preparer and say, "Make sure I don't owe money next year." The tax preparer then requests an increased withholding from Service Canada on the senior's behalf. 6 months later, the senior has forgotten that conversation and is alarmed that their deposit is lower. Check whether you or your tax preparer ever submitted a TD1 form. That's the form used to adjust withholding, or made a withholding request to Service Canada. The fourth mistake is panicking before gathering information. It is completely natural to feel unsettled when your income changes unexpectedly, but in the vast majority of cases, a lower deposit has a completely explainable, correctable reason. Gather the information first. Let me speak to something important for a moment, because I know some of you watching this have modest incomes, and every dollar genuinely matters. If you are a low-income senior, and by that I mean your total income is quite low, you may qualify for the Guaranteed Income Supplement, which is called GIS. The GIS is a non-taxable benefit. It is not subject to income tax the way CPP and OAS are. If a large part of your income comes from GIS, your overall tax burden may be very low or effectively zero. However, and this is critical, GIS is income tested, meaning the amount you receive depends on your income. If your income went up in the previous year, even slightly, your GIS could be reduced or eliminated for the following payment period. This is a separate issue from the CPP and OAS tax withholding we've been discussing, but it's worth mentioning because GIS changes are another very common reason why a senior's total monthly income suddenly looks different. If you are receiving GIS and you believe your income this year is significantly lower than last year, for example, you stopped working or stopped withdrawing from an RRSP, you can actually apply to have your GIS reassessed based on your current year income rather than last year's. This is called a current year income application, and it can restore GIS payments much sooner than waiting for the annual reassessment. Service Canada can help you with this process. Looking ahead, there are a few things worth understanding about how this plays out over time. Each July, Service Canada typically adjusts CPP and OAS payment amounts based on changes in the Consumer Price Index. That means payments may increase slightly to keep up with the cost of living. This is called indexing. When your gross payment amount increases in July, you might notice your net deposit also increases, but the withholding amount may also change slightly as a result. Don't be surprised if July brings a small change in both directions. The other thing to watch each year is your tax filing. Filing your taxes on time every spring is genuinely important for seniors. The CRA uses your filed return to assess your OAS recovery amount, to reassess your GIS eligibility, and to make sure your withholding for the coming year is as accurate as possible. Filing on time means fewer surprises. If you are low income and need help with your taxes, the CRA's Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, called CVITP, offers free tax preparation help for eligible seniors across Canada. You can find locations on the canada.ca website. Let me bring everything together now because I want you to leave this video with complete clarity. Your CPP and OAS are taxable income. The amount deposited in your bank may be lower than the gross amount listed on government documents because tax is being withheld at the source before the payment reaches you. This is normal, legal, and expected. The withholding amount can change based on your total income, a CRA adjustment, a request you or your tax preparer made, or the OAS recovery tax if your income is above the applicable threshold. If your deposit looks lower than you expected, the most important thing to do is check your payment statement, log in to My Service Canada, review your notice of assessment, and if needed, call Service Canada directly. In the overwhelming majority of cases, there is no error. There is simply a tax adjustment that was not well explained to you. You are not losing your benefits. You are not being penalized. The system is functioning the way it was designed to. And now you understand how it works. Before I close, I'd like to ask you something, and I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever noticed your deposit was lower than expected and not known why? Did you figure it out on your own, or did you have to call Service Canada? Sometimes knowing you're not alone in this confusion makes a real difference. And if this video helped clarify something you've been wondering about, please subscribe to this channel. We cover CPP, OAS, GIS, and all the retirement benefit questions that matter to Canadians in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. No financial products, no investment advice, just clear, honest information about the benefits you've earned and deserve to understand. Take care of yourself, and thank you for watching.